your organization, and you can give us the early feedback. So this feedback is given through beta testing, right? So both are again acceptance testing, and it is alpha testing and beta testing. Both have got their own significance, their own roles, right? So what is the difference between manual testing and automation testing?
Sir, basically, uh, manual testing is we're testing the software manually by giving the inputs. And automation testing, we do not in automation testing, uh, we uh, we are using a tool to test the software.
Okay. Right. So this was good. So
And in manual testing,
yeah, please go ahead.
in manual testing, it is a tedious task. In automation testing, it is not tedious.
Okay.
If we are execute 100 and 200 test cases, then we prefer automation testing.
Okay.
And if we are execute 2 to 3 test cases, then we perform manual testing.
Right.
The automation testing is more accurate than manual testing.
More, and it takes less time, and it is more efficient as well, right? It is reliable, it is repeatable. So that thing is good. Okay. So consider
Manual testing,
yeah, please go ahead.
Manual testing more requirements of humans. In automation testing, that less requirements.
Less requirements, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So this was a good answer, and let's move to the next question then. Consider a test scenario in which you have got a particular field of a birth date. Okay. Now, what are the positive scenarios and what are the negative scenarios for that particular birth date field?
Sir, can you explain it?
So let's say if it is a birth date field is there, okay, you can enter DD, MM, YY format in a birth date field. Okay. Then what are all the positive scenarios that you can think of? And then tell us about the negative scenarios.
First of all, in positive scenarios, we check that we are there is a month and a date and year, and DD, MM, and YY is displaying correct or not. Then
let me share a screen with you. I'll draw it in a notepad, and I think it would be easy for you to tell us the test cases. Are you able to see the screen?
Yeah. Yes, sir.
Okay. So tell us, like, this is a birth date field, and you have to write the positive scenarios and the negative scenarios. So first, tell us about the positive scenarios. How will you
positive scenarios
this field?
First we check the birth date, month or year is displaying correct or not, and to check the month from January to December it is displaying or not, and in date field the date table is displaying or not, and next the year table is displaying or not. And positive scenario, and in positive scenarios we check the date field, and the date field we can select the date, we can select the month, we can select the year or not.
Okay, this is select date, select month,
yeah,
year,
and check yeah, display properly or not. And the alignments are displaying correct or not
Mhm.
towards alignments.
Mhm. Mhm.
Uh, and
What else comes to your mind if I give you this thing? Okay, let me give
yeah,
you a hint. Uh,
yeah,
uh, for positive scenarios, uh,
yeah,
instead of this birth date format, if some system is there in which you are you are trying to access this application, and the system date
yeah,
is
yeah.
different. Over
The
there,
system did.
m/d/yy, something like that. Then what
Yeah,
would be the scenario, right? That
yeah, yeah.
hmm,
And checking the date month here and not,
okay, no issues. Let
and
me,
we can
yeah, yeah,
yeah,
yeah,
we
please.
can properly select or not. I think one of these.
Yeah, yeah. So that is covered, right, over here. Yeah. So let me help you with the scenarios over here. Over here, you can take an example of leap year, and you can try to put, 29th Feb. You can try to enter 29th February date, right? And you can take some year, that is 2020 or 2016,
2024.
divide, the year should be divisible by 4, right? Example you can take. Another scenario you can add over here is, let's say if, as we were discussing, if it's a system date is of DD YY. Now this format is different compared to what format we have in the application, right? So then we can check with what is the behavior of this scenario, right? Another example would be, I don't exactly remember the year, but it was something around 1976 or 1977, where
Yeah.
the year did not have 365 days. Instead, it had 366 days, right? So that kind of scenario we can test over here.
Yeah.
I don't remember, it was Halley's Comet or something. Because of that, the year duration was 366 days. So that particular year, you can search on the Google and you can test the scenario, right? So
Yes, sir.
another thing is, you can test for concurrent testing. Let's say if you are trying to enter from one particular browser on your machine, and your team
Yeah.
member is sitting on another machine and he's also trying to enter the value. Simultaneously,
Yeah.
10 different users are trying to access the same application and they are trying to enter the birth date field. So is it
Yes.
entering, like you can check the database, are the values getting stored over there at that time during concurrency, or is the application taking time at that particular thing, right?
Yes.
Then okay, so these were so far negative scenario, so far positive scenarios. Now let's think about negative. So negative, again, you can take this example. You can take an example of leap year, and you can try to put
Maybe.
a year that is not a leap year. Anything else than 2020. You can take 2021, you can take 2017, something like that. Okay. Then for,
Yes, sir.
yeah, yes, you have any question?
Uh, no, sir.
Okay. Then what we can do from apart from this is, in the negative scenario, you can take a particular month. Let's say if it is kind of June, or some month that has got only 30 days, right? A particular month that has got 30 days, and you try to
Yeah.
select a date 31st for that particular month. Okay. So then it should not allow you.
Is selected or not?
Yeah, it
Yeah.
should not allow you to select. It should give some proper validation message, right? And
Yes.
and another thing is, what you can do is, you can try to do, you can try to open Fiddler. Fiddler is actually a tool that is used for pen testing, penetration testing, right? So you can,
Uh,
yes,
sir, can you say about me penetration testing? Actually, I don't know about that.
okay.
Is
Okay.
that
So penetration testing is is a testing in which, we are trying to play with the request, let's say if a login page is there, in that we are entering
Yes, sir.
username and password field, right? Now, let's say the valid username is Soumya and the password is Soumya123, right? So if
Yeah.
I enter a positive username and a positive password, a valid
Yeah.
password, so it should allow me to log in into the application. Now let's say if
Yeah.
I enter Soumya as a username and I enter password also Soumya123, and when the request is going to the server, in between I change the request parameters of that particular server, and on the fly, instead of Soumya123, I'm entering Soumya1234. So using
Yeah.
Fiddler, you can break the request and you can pass other parameters into that particular request. Okay, then the server should identify these are all the invalid, this is an invalid password, so it should give us a message. Okay, your login username password is incorrect. Please try again. Okay,
Yeah.
so this is kind of a
Yes.
penetration testing when we are trying to penetrate into the software and we are trying to break it. It is also
Yeah.
known as security testing, vulnerability testing. Okay. So over here, the scenario can be that we are trying to enter a date, that is, let's say we are trying to enter date something as 32nd January 2020. Now this date is not possible. So what we would do is we would first enter 31, and then when the request is on the fly, then we would change the request and we would try to put it as this date. Okay. Then
Yeah.
proper response should be there. You should not get some messages like internal server error or some unhandled exception.
Proper message is showing or not?
Yeah, for
Like,
invalid date. Proper message for invalid date should be there. Okay. So these are few of the scenarios that you can take for birth date. Okay.
yes.
So another scenario that I would like to ask, do you know about API? What is API?
Yeah, I know about it. Yeah.
So what is API?
Uh, Sir, API stands for, I think, application programming interface.
Yes,
Don't
right.
know about that.
Correct.
Yeah. API API is a piece. It is a piece of software connecting two product. Like in ATM, like when you using ATM,
Mm,
a customer came and he put his card,
mm,
and in the ATM machine and the database of a bank, there is a API.
right.
When the customer entering, and when the customer entering his password and like that account number, then there is a API to connect the ATM machine to the bank database.
Mm, mm.
I think that's called API.
Okay. So if anyone asks you in an interview what is API, you can tell us like an API is a set of programming instructions and standards. So it is a kind of set of programming instructions that are used
Yeah.
for accessing a particular web-based application or web tool. Okay. So generally what a programmer does is they will develop first API. They'll develop API at the backend. And then there would be front-end developer who would be designing the buttons and options, drop down and all those things. So then what they would do, the front end and back end is there. So back end is full of API and front end is full of UI components. So then they will combine these two things. Now for a tester, why it becomes important to test an API is because many a times it happens in the software development lifecycle that the API is there, but the front end is taking time. Okay. So you can take the API, you can test the API with respect to the requirements that you have, and you can give an early feedback to the developer. Okay, for this particular scenario this API is not working, so he will modify the API, he will do some changes in that, and he will give you the new API. So ultimately this API testing is very important because ultimately this is going to be the backend for your product, even though it will get a layer of front end, but it is very important to do API testing. Okay,
There
now
is any tool, sir? Yeah.
yeah,
There isn't any tool to using API testing.
yes, there are many tools.
Is there any tool?
Yes, Postman is there. In that you can do functional testing. So using Postman, actually, it is an open source tool. It is not chargeable. You can download on your machine, and you can just keep a request, and with the particular thing, like what are all the authentication required. So if you can just click on hit, so it will hit the API and you will come to know what response you are getting. Okay.
Yes.
Then there is also JMeter. So JMeter,
Yeah, Jim.
yeah. So JMeter is useful for actually performance testing on API. You can do functional testing also of API using JMeter, and you can record the entire flow of your application in the JMeter, and then you will get all the APIs listed in the tree itself. Okay. So these are the two most popular tools used in the IT companies, JMeter and Postman.
Postman.
So tell me, what would be the response code of an API if the request is successful?
Sorry, sir. I don't know about that.
Okay. So currently, see, the question is you have to tell about the response code. Now, when I tell you the response code, it can be 200 OK. 200 OK is coming when the API for an API.
Like the error is coming. 200 error 404 like that.
Yeah. So these are all the response codes. So you can see 200 OK is coming when the request is successful. Then 400 is coming. Then 401 is coming when unauthorized person is trying to access the application. Then 404 is coming. So these are all the various response codes that you will get when you are trying to test an API. And when there is internal server error coming, then the response code would be 500. Okay.
500.
And then
it is showing in red color. I think it is showing in red color when it is 500 error.
500 error. And then there are some applications who will design the API in such a way that for a particular correct request, they will give you the response as 201. Okay. So these are all the various response codes that you will get for an API. Okay. Over here, the question was, what would be the response code of an API if the request is successful? So when the request is successful, the response code would be 200.
200.
It is working fine.
Yes, sir.
Okay, then what is SDLC and what is STLC?
Yeah, basically SDLC means software development life cycle, and there are many models in software development life cycle, like waterfall model, spiral model, prototype model, PB model, agile model, and I think basically company are using agile model.
Right.
And yeah, and in SDLC, I think in SDLC it stands for software testing life cycle, and there are 6 phases. And first is a requirement illustration and analysis, and second is requirement illustration and analysis, then test planning, then they design that test cases, designing of test cases, and test planning, test designing, and then the test environment setup, and then the test execution, and they release the software. That is STLC.
Right. So that was good. You were mentioning something about agile. So what is the difference between agile and waterfall model?
Yeah, basically agile models means I know agile means firstly agile means rapid. Rapid means fast agile model, and there are three model. There are three ways to test the software in agile model. First is Scrum method, Kanban method, and extreme programming. And we are using Scrum method. A Scrum means a group of team will working together. A group of testers and developers are working together to achieve some common goals. That is Scrum. And there are three persons like product owner, Scrum master, and Scrum team involved in that. like Scrum Master is assigning the rules and regulations to the Scrum team, and the product owner is the representative from customer side. And in Scrum team, there will be a group of test engineers and the developers are working together. Their Scrum team, and basically waterfall model. There are 6 phases in waterfall model: requirement illustrations and analysis, feasibility study, and designing. After designing, they perform coding, and the coding, then testing, then installation phase, and then maintenance phase.
Right. Great.
Yeah.
So I'll give you one test scenario. Consider a test scenario is there for an Amazon website, and
Yes, sir.
people were using it yesterday. Let's say on 15th of November, people were heavily using it, and
Yeah.
everything was working smooth. Everything was working absolutely fine. And now, since today morning, since 16 November morning today itself, it has got bit slow. The
Yeah.
the functionality of selecting the products and adding them to the cart. So this functionality, this flow has got slow. So what are all the things that come up to your mind, or what are all the test scenarios that you will design to test this software? Like what all things you think would have happened in the past one day or in last 24 hours that all of a sudden it has got slow?
I think it is comes under performance testing.
Hmm.
The yeah,
So you
to
performance testing, right?
yeah.
Yeah. Okay. And what can be the possible reasons behind this, slow response of the application?
Uh, Perform.
Okay, no problem. I'll help you. I'll help you in this. Let's say
Yes.
you can go to the developer team and you can ask them if they have checked in any of the
Yeah.
code and what are all the SQL statements or the queries that they have used. Because sometimes it happens that in the last check-in they would have used some query and that query would not be optimized. That is, it would be taking more time to execute the transactions in the transaction. So that is why you can tell that the SQL query that has been recently checked in, that is affecting the code, and that is why the website is taking more time. Another possibility can be it's an e-commerce website, right? So some particular product, new product, the website would have introduced, and they would have got heavy images, kind of, heavy CSS files or heavy HTML page images that is making the pages slow, and that is why the page is taking longer time to, in all this functionality, in this behavior. So that can be one of the reason. Then third thing is the developer would have used some kind of a JavaScript, and JavaScript is not compatible with some particular browser, and hence that when the flow of the application is happening, when the behavior now it has got impacted because of this, and that's why the response time is more of the application compared to
Yeah.
compared to last 24 hours code. Okay, so these are all the things that you have to tell to the interviewer. You got the right point. You went for performance testing, but after doing performance testing, or what is the end goal? What made you go for performance testing? So these are all the things that you can articulate at that time in interview. So that interviewer will be happy to know that okay, you are able to analyze the situation, and there will be good